This short video is meant to be an introduction to creating quizzes using Moodle's quiz module. It's meant to go along with another series of videos that go through creating different types of quiz questions once the quiz has been established. Obviously, the first thing you want to do is get into Moodle and go to the course that you're modifying and turn editing on. Once you've done that, then go to the unit or module that you are trying to modify here and click under Add an Activity, Quiz. Once you've done that, this dialog box opens up and you have to put a name in here for the quiz. I'm going to call this Ice Cream Quiz for reasons that you'll see later. And there's a spot for an introduction. Now here you can put anything you want, text, graphics, things like that, that are just general introduction to the quiz. As soon as the student opens up the quiz, they'll see whatever you put here. If you have a general set of instructions or rules or guidelines for your quiz that you want to appear every time a student takes a quiz, this would be the place to put that. I'm just going to put a sentence here. This is a quiz on ice cream. Just so you can see how that will look to a student when they open it up. Now you can enable an opening time and date for the quiz. You can enable a closing time and date for the quiz. So if you'd like this quiz to open up at a certain time and close at a certain time, you would enable both of those and select that. Another option is you can enable a time limit so that the student can take the quiz anytime they want, but they have to fit it within a certain time frame, perhaps to cut down on cheating or to make sure that they're prepared. You can also set how many attempts you're going to allow the student to have, unlimited attempts or a specific number up through 10. You can always change that later on for individual students by using something called an override, but if you have a standard number of attempts that you'd like to allow, that would be the place to set it. Grading method. If you allow multiple attempts, you have the option of choosing the highest grade from any of their attempts, the average grade from their attempts, the first attempt, or the last attempt. And Moodle will automatically select the one that you have specified when it puts a grade in the gradebook. Layout is another option that you have. You can have the questions appear just the way you show them on the edit screen. That would be important if you have follow-on questions, like you have to answer question number 1 before you see question number 2. But to cut down on cheating, to make sure that different questions are on different kids' screens at any given time, I will often choose shuffle randomly so that it will shuffle the questions in any random order. And then you can select how often a new page occurs. If you want each question to have its own separate page, then you select every question. Or you can have all the questions on one page, or every 2, 3, 4, 19 questions, up to you. Question behavior. Within the questions, if you have multiple choice A, B, C, and D, do you want that to shuffle or not? I always select yes, because within the individual question, you can always change that if you want to. How questions behave. There are a bunch of different ways that questions can behave, and I just usually leave it in the default deferred feedback. If you want to know what some of those other things mean, you'll have to do a little research. I've never had any trouble with deferred feedback. Each attempt builds on the last. I always select no here, but you could possibly select yes. But again, you'd have to do a little research to find out how that's going to change the behavior of the question. And then review options. There are a lot of possibilities here. You can select that immediately after the attempt, or later, but while the quiz is still open, or after the quiz is closed, if the students get feedback about what the right answer was, general feedback, specific feedback, whether or not they were right, and which attempt they're on. I usually leave all of these selected except for right answer. I usually unselect that so that the students never see the right answer. And that's because I allow multiple attempts. So obviously a student could just take this a number of times until they figure out what the right answer is, and then everyone will get 100% without having learned anything. So that's up to you. You can play around with those options and see what suits you best. There are some options for display, how many decimal places are going to be in the grade, some details like that, and so forth. You can require a password to take the test and select whether or not that's going to be masked or not. You can enforce a timed delay between the first and second attempts. Like you might say, you can take a second attempt, but you have to at least study for 15 minutes, and so you can enable that and then make that setting there. And then you can do it for later attempts as well. And then there are feedback ranges here. So if a student gets like 90 or higher, you could put feedback, great job, you got an A. And then a boundary of 80 to 90, you could maybe put feedback here, good job, you got a B, and so forth, so that the student sees general feedback about the quiz. And then there are those group settings that I'm not going to go into. So once you're satisfied that you have things set the way you'd like them to be, you click Save and Return to Course. So now when you go back to the course, as an instructor, of course, you have all your edit options here, and the ice cream quiz shows up. If you click on the quiz, if there are no questions there, it's just going to tell you no questions have been added and put a button there that says Edit the Quiz. If there already was a question there and you saved halfway done creating the quiz, you wouldn't get that button. It would ask you to take an attempt. If that's the case, then what you have to do is go to your sidebar under Settings and click the Edit Quiz button. When you do that, you have the question editing page, and that's the place where you start to build the actual quiz. So this gives you the idea of how to set up a quiz. Now you should watch a few videos about how to create individual question types within a quiz.